Okay, welcome back. This video is about the muffler, but it's about a few other things too. Before we can put the muffler on, we have to put the cowl on. Before we put the cowl on, we have to put Loctite on this screw here for the quick connect. So I have marked with the gold Sharpie marker where the position of this push rod is on the outside of the quick connect. So in case it slips, which I don't think it will, but in case it does, okay, I know how to put it right back where it was. So take my Loctite. In this case, I'm just going to put it on the threads. Actually, this is Permatex thread lock, and I just dripped it all over the table. And on top of paper towel, which is why the paper towel was there in the first place. Okay. That's good and tight. Now, in case that moved just a little bit, it's not a big deal because we have a nice programmable radio where we can change the endpoint individually, either closed end or open end, and it'll be fine. So that's good and tight. And okay, so I'm going to put the cowl on. This is all hardened. I got the epoxy in there, that's good. Got the epoxy here, that's good. So I'm going to stop the camera and put the cowl on. Okay, so the cowl's on, and you can see the green fill line is in the cowl, and that just sits there, won't go anywhere, and tucks nicely inside the cowl. For the muffler, you can see that this is pointing upward. That doesn't do you any good when the wing is up here on the top, so I want that muffler to point downward. In order to do that, you have to, there's a screw on the front and a nut on the back. The nut is 17/64 size nut. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find a 17/64 driver for that nut, but if you find one, that's great. So you just loosen that nut, otherwise you have to use some other kind of nut driver. Take a good strong Phillips, because these things are on tight. Okay, there we go. So once you loosen the front, loosen the back. I like to turn this slightly past 90 degrees, so it's aiming more down than out, but it's not exactly at 45 either. I don't want it spraying all over the wheels, but I also don't want it spraying all over the wing either. So it's, you know, instead of 90 degrees out, it's about 95. It's about, instead of 3 o'clock, it's 3:30. Okay. And then you tighten the screw in the front first. Get that good and tight. Take your 17/64 wrench and tighten up the back screw. Okay. And somewhere I've got the extension on it. You can put an extension on. I like to have extensions on my mufflers. If you choose not to, that's okay too. So then I got two muffler screws here. I'm going to put the muffler screw in. Find my 3/32 hex, 3/32 hex driver. Start one side just far enough. Put the other screw in. Start the other side. And crank them on. So the muffler screws I don't find do very well with thread lock, Loctite, whatever. And that's because the thread lock isn't made to take the heat, and so blue Loctite I wouldn't use, red Loctite I wouldn't use, because it's subject to heat as well. So I just don't put any Loctite on the threads for the screws for the muffler. Which also means that every time you go fly or when you start it up, you can visually check to make sure the muffler is not loose and that the screws are tight. And but they stay pretty secure. That's the muffler is on. Now we got to put this on. The orange line. That's way too much of an orange line. So let me get my cutter and the black Sharpie marker. And let's see, I want the fuel, this orange tubing to, it's okay for it to touch the muffler down here, but I don't like it touching the head. So I'm going to put it on something like that. So I'm going to mark it right about where my fingers are. Okay. And take my cutters, check it, looks good, and cut it. Might be a pain if you screw up, because if you screw up then you got to take it back, take everything off and put it back in there and so forth, but that'll work fine. And you can pull that off quite easily and put on the overflow tank that you really should have. And so I think that's going to be good for that. Yep, that looks good. I'll save cutting this for when I'm ready to put on the fuel filter. So I'm just going to tuck that in there for a minute. And muffler's complete. Thank you very much for watching. And stay tuned for the next video.